Before you call each student back to administer the oral reading assessment, it's really helpful to fill out this top section, just so that right when they get to you, you can start the test immediately. So I'm going to just fill that out for Johnny. He's going to be in grade 5, and because you're supposed to start at the level he was at previously, we're starting at S, so that means his previous level was an S, and I am recording it, so just write my last name and today's date. Okay, Johnny, come on back. So now that I filled that out, as soon as he gets here, we're going to be ready to start. Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. Make sure you speak it nice and loud, okay? Okay, this passage is called The Titanic, and it tells about the tragic voyage of the RMS Titanic in 1912. At the time, the RMS Titanic was the world's largest and most luxurious ship in the world. Do you know anything about the RMS Titanic? Have you heard of the Titanic?
Yes, that it was called. It sunk to the bottom of the sea because of the iceberg.
Oh, okay, so it sounds like you already know a lot about the Titanic, okay? You're going to read this passage aloud. When you're ready, you can go ahead and start, and then when you're done, we're going to talk about what you've read. So start whenever you're ready.
On April 10th, 1912, the RMS Titanic left Southampton, England, bound for New York City. At the time, it was the world's largest ship, built, owned, to operated by the White Star Line. The Titanic weighed 46,329 tons and was 882.5 feet long. It was said to unsinkable because of its incredible construction.
Good job.
The luxury cruise ship contained superior amenities, including a spectacular dining hall that could seat 500 people, because the Titanic was believed to be the safest ship ever built. But a very important detail was overlooked. The number of lifeboats needed. The Titanic was designed to construct with enough lifeboats to accommodate only half of its passengers. On that April day, when the magnificent ship set sail for America, Captain Edward John Smith was in command. He was 63 years old and getting ready to retire. The first voyage
Good job.
of the Titanic would be the final voyage of his career. Tragically, the Titanic never completed its maiden voyage. For days after setting sail,
Okay, so after the student has read with you and you've sent them back to their desk, the next step is going to be to figure out their comprehension score. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through how I've come to different points, values for each question. So here at the first one, the answer should have been New York City, and he said America. I was kind of stuck here because, you know, New York City is in America, so I went back to the text and looked to see if there was anywhere in the text that did say that it was actually headed for America. So if you notice at the top, it did say it was bound for New York City, but down here it said on that April day when this magnificent ship set sail for America, etc., etc. So because it did say America in the text, I did give him that full point because it was an answer that was from the text. It wasn't the exact detail that they wanted, so he might not get that point for details. And as you will see later, you know, he missed that throughout the other questions as well, but he does get the point for mentioning that it was setting sail for America. Then down here on the next question, he did mention lifeboats, but again, the detail in what was happening or not happening with lifeboats wasn't discussed. So there I'm going to give him half a point because he mentioned lifeboats, and lifeboats wasn't the answer, but he didn't further give that detail that it was looking for. Next question, he hit it on the head, so he got a point there. And then for the final question, he did get part of the answer. He had jewelry, he had reading glasses, but he missed two other parts, and it does say that if there's an answer that requires multiple parts, if they miss any of the parts, it's wrong. So he missed that question. And if we come to the top, if we look at vocabulary, just to double check to see if he did use vocabulary, I'm going to flip to the back side of my notes. And if you notice, he did use vocabulary. He used Titanic, unsinkable, sailing to America, Captain John Smith, iceberg, seafloor, several different vocabulary words from the text. And so I'm going to go ahead and give him a point for vocabulary. I would also say that he hit the main idea. He talked about that they thought it was unsinkable, and so I'm going to give him that point. But on details, he did miss going further into detail on some of these questions, and so he's going to not get a point for details. So then if we look at his score, he scored 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So I'm going to write his score up here, 4.5 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. And so then the percentage, 4.5 divided by 7, will tell me his comprehension score percentage. That's going to help later on when we're figuring out whether to test up or test down. So this means he scored a 64% on comprehension. Okay, so then after you have figured out their comprehension score, you want to go ahead and figure out their errors and their self-correct. This is going to help you figure out their word accuracy. If you noticed, as he was reading, I did not tally each error and each self-correct for each line. I like to wait till I'm all done to do that, just especially for students who might be making more errors as they're reading or reading a little bit faster. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything as I'm taking notes and doing my running record. However, if you have a student that might not be making as many mistakes or is reading slower and you have time, they're more than welcome to mark these columns as they're reading. So I'm just going to go back and take a look at each row. So here we have that he added a word, so that's an error. And then he also misread that word, so that's another error. Down here, he repeated largest. Repeats are not errors, so that's fine. Down here, he inserted another word. He skipped this word completely. You can circle words that are skipped. You can cross them out. You can put a line above them. It's really up to you and how you mark them, as long as you do mark that they skipped them in some way. So that's an error. Down here, we have another insertion and then misread word. So that's 2 errors. Misread, it's an error. Read the wrong word, basically. And then down here, he missed the ending ed, so that's an error, and then he misread, so that's an error. So now I can just go ahead and total up at the bottom. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 on this page, and no self-corrections, so that's fine. And I'm going to flip it over, and I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. So here, he started to misread it, but he self-corrected, so that's a self-correct. There's a misread there. Here he inserted a word, but he self-corrected himself. Misread a word. He did an insertion there. And then here he self-corrected. And here he skipped that word. So again, you see I put a line above it. You can circle words that are skipped, cross them out. It's really up to you as long as you mark it. So then on this page, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 errors. And 1, 2, 3 self-corrections. So then altogether, he had 15 errors and 3 self-corrections. I'm going to go to this front section, and where it says total errors, he had 15. This is part of figuring out his word accuracy for the total passage. So there were 276 words total. I'm going to subtract 15 from that, and I get 261 words read correctly. So then we're going to divide 261 divided by 276 and multiply that by 100, and you get a 94% accuracy level. So on the upper grade text, I haven't mentioned this yet, but upper grades do not have this already written on our assessment sheet. So I usually pre-write these in either before I call them back or as a grade. I've even made masters so that this is on all of them now and we don't have to write them every single time. So if you notice, for word accuracy, he is at an instructional level because he's at 94%. And we're going to come back to that after we finish scoring a couple of other things. Okay, so now that we have figured out Johnny's accuracy percentage, And we also want to now figure out his words correct per minute. One thing with this assessment that we give, whether it's younger grades that are in the books or upper grades that are on a sheet of paper, is the kids definitely end up reading more than a minute. And so we want to figure out his words correct per minute so we can make sure that he's also on grade level and where he should be. So Johnny read 261 words total. So we're going to take 261 and we're going to multiply that by 60. And we're going to get 15,660. Then we're going to take that number and we're going to divide by the number of seconds it took him to read the entire passage. So it took him 3 minutes and 5 seconds. So 60 seconds in a minute, 3 times 60 is 180, plus 5 is going to be 185 seconds. And that's going to tell us about how many words per minute Johnny read. So he read 84.6 words correct per minute. And that's going to come in handy at the end of all of our scoring when we're making our decision. Okay, so before we look at all of our data, I just want to go back and make sure that I've filled out this section completely. So if we go back to his word accuracy rate, we determined that he was at a 94% for the entire passage. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. For reading fluency, we have not fluent, word by word, and fluent. And with Johnny, there were times where he definitely made some errors and had some insertions or misread words. So you could think maybe word by word, but he definitely didn't sound like a robot when he was reading, and he wasn't reading each word choppy the whole entire time. So I'm going to say that he was fluent, and then down here where it says instructional recommendations, that's where I'm going to write some notes about how Johnny might need to work more on, slowing down on those bigger words, not adding words in, practicing his fluency, and definitely practicing his detail with his comprehension. So just a few notes here to help me know what I need to do for him this term. So we're going to add details is a goal that we want him to work on, slowing down on those larger words, working on his decoding skills when he's reading those words, and then definitely practicing fluency. Okay, so now to decide really if Johnny is going to stay at this S level, test up or test down, we're going to look at 3 different factors from our data. So first, his accuracy. So he did score at an instructional level, and we do want them to be at instructional level. But then when you look at his comprehension score, we notice that he scored at a frustrational level. If you look at my notes here, and again, this is going to be in your Zaner-Bloser guidelines booklet, frustrational level for comprehension is 79% or lower, and he scored a 64%. So he's at a frustrational level for that. If we look at his words correct per minute that we figured out, he's reading again 84.6 words correct per minute. If you look at your Dibbles booklet, and we have this screenshot of the table of words correct per minute from Dibbles in your Zaner-Bloser guidelines packet, at beginning of 5th grade, which is where this student is, they should be at 111 words correct per minute. And so Johnny was at 84.6, which shows that this is below where we want him to be as well at a 5th grade level. If comprehension was at instructional and accuracy was at instructional, I might choose to keep him here, but because his comprehension is at frustrational and he's reading below words correct per minute where he should be starting 5th grade, then we're going to go ahead and retest at an R, which is right before S. And I'm just going to do everything the same that I just did with S. And then when I'm done, I'm going to look at his accuracy, his comprehension score, and his words correct per minute to decide where he should be.